All right, guys, so I got, whoa, almost busted my face here. All right, we got a little bit of an ice situation here. Okay, so yeah, I've got a short walk to go on. I just wanted to take this as an opportunity to talk about something that a lot of farmers are hilariously bad at, and more so a lot of people who are just getting into homesteading and doing things of that sort, and that's deciding what's actually worth spending money on and what isn't. Okay, so you guys watched, I built a small building, I don't know, last fall sometime, and some people asked me, they're like, did you find old, takeoff barn tin roofing or something for that? And I'm like, well, so here's the deal. I tried to, but I looked around, all the used building materials that I saw listed on the internet were like, at least in terms of metal roofing and steel siding, it was all absolutely beat to death material with a bunch of holes drilled in it and rusty and whatnot. And people want like 70-80% new cost for what that runs at the store. So yeah, needless to say, I did not mess with that stuff at all. I just went to the big box store and bought all new metal roofing and metal siding. Okay, but a lot of people will mess with things of that sort, and that's what I want to talk about here briefly. I guess the main thing is people don't understand the time value of just having to dick with stuff, okay? I've had some not really worth doing projects, especially in the past in my life. I got a lot better about that. But, I don't even really look for things intentionally, but I see a bunch of projects of that sort, project materials that just are not worth messing with at all. Okay, you got to figure, those listings I saw, that stuff could easily be like 2 or 3 or 4 hours away from the actual, construction site where we built that. So people are like, yeah, this saves me, $400 or $500, which sounds awesome. Until you figure, you really have to value your time when you're doing anything. This is a concept a lot of people simply do not understand for some reason. Okay. And you can't be valuing it at, $12 an hour or something. Man, that's like one of the worst things you can do if you just want to work actually, it's one of the best things you can do if you just want to work all the time and never really get ahead. And I know a lot of people like that who just never really seem to catch on that that's what they're doing. So this is what I'm trying to warn you guys against, okay? You need to value your time. If you have even the most remote set of skills and even some basic hand tools, at least like $20 an hour or something. I saw, obviously I'm not in the job market, but I saw at the, at the gas station last time I went there, they hire random people off the street now for $16 an hour. That doesn't require any tools. You don't even have to have a shirt. Like, they give you the shirt and like, who knows what benefits and whatnot. You just show up and you get $16 an hour. Okay. So you got to figure the time to actually go get, and this probably less than ideal example, the time to go get the, this roofing, if it's 4 hours away, that's $160 just in time. Then you have to figure fuel, and, an amazing percentage of people somehow haven't caught on to this next part yet, and that's that it actually costs more than the cost of fuel to drive a vehicle around. Okay, you got maintenance, you got parts, you got registration, taxes, insurance, all that stuff. So for short errands, what I do is probably not, the CPA approved method, but I just, double the cost of whatever the actual fuel is. If I have to figure out how much it's going to cost me to go, to the next town and pick something up, and then add your time to that. And a lot of the time, this isn't really worth it. It's not really worth it to mess with stuff. I'm not saying used material is a bad deal. I don't think it necessarily is. I was generously given a bunch of used material, used steel from a buddy's machine shop. He acquired all these shipping crates and odds and ends over the years. He was going to turn into something or other. He stacked them up behind his building, never did. Excuse me. And he's like, yeah, I need the space for other things. If you want the stuff, you can have it. So I hauled off a bunch of structural steel. That was definitely worth the time and energy and fuel and everything else to mess with. Okay, but it was only worth that because it was free. And people say, well, you just expect too much. Well, No, and the reason why I object to that is because when I'm trying to get rid of old building materials myself, that's the same way that I value such things. Okay, for example, on the family farm, there was this piece of ground they started working, and it had these, they were like some kind of livestock shelters or something. Okay, and these two small buildings, I would estimate the cost to build these things would be at least $2,500. All right, but we weren't using them. We're never going to use them. And they're just kind of sitting there taking up space and looking dilapidated. So I was given the task of making them disappear. And I looked these things over, and you know, there's plenty of good lumber and sections and stuff in there and some roofing and whatnot. Not really good for, like, you know, a house or, you know, a cabin or whatever, but definitely good enough for, well, for something like that, for being a livestock shelter, tool shed, chicken coop, that kind of thing. Okay, and I looked at these buildings and I said, I think we're looking at least $2,500 worth of material here if you were going to build this. So that means that this material, let's say it's worth $1,500 in used form, which I think is probably more than it is, but you know, people tend to value used junk a lot higher than a lot of the time they should. So let's say it's worth $1,500. Okay, so I listed it for free on the internet, local classifieds service. I put some pictures of the buildings up there and I said, you know, come and get them, pretty much. And what happened is some local homesteaders came out, 3 people, 2 vehicles, and they worked for like 2 full days deconstructing these things. That's the other thing, man. One of the smaller channels I watch, this sounds like a little bit of a tangent, but I'm going somewhere, all right? One of the smaller channels I watch had an old house, pretty much the same story, on you know, like a piece of property he acquired or whatever. And he burned it down, like, intentionally. I guess, you know, that's legal wherever he lives. But whatever, he burned the thing down and filmed it, and a bunch of people in the comments were like, you know, you could salvage the 2x4s and stuff out of that. Nah, man. You know, I did stuff like that when I was younger, and I'm not saying it's a bad deal, okay, but I'm saying it's incredibly slow and incredibly labor intensive. And then obviously at the end of it, you don't have new material. You got odd sizes of stuff, you know, with nails and holes and termite damage and whatnot. So yeah, kind of builds what I'm saying though. Stuff really has to be free if it's going to be worth messing with. And even for free, a lot of things I wouldn't spend my time and energy on. Okay, but with the tail of these 2 little sheds here, okay, I put these things up there, and like I said, free, come and get them. 3 people, 2 cars came out, and they spent 2 days deconstructing these things. All right, that's how long it took, and there were no special circumstances. All right, this wasn't a situation where everything has to be carried like half a mile or, you know, or a quarter mile to the path. Nope, they could pull up right next to these things and start working. Nothing about it is excessively difficult. It's just that much work. Okay, to take apart these 2 sheds, 3 people, 2 days, that's like 6 man days. You know, that's like 50 man hours, or whatever the math on that turns out to be, like 48 or something, I don't know. But yeah, so we're doing some quick math here. Let's say that took 50 hours, okay, of their time, you know, for $1,500 worth of stuff. Where's the calculator on this? I should have done the math before I started recording this, but whatever, it's a free lesson. $1,500 divided by 50, yeah, that's $30 an hour right there. Okay, they basically gained $30 an hour, but really they didn't, because this doesn't figure in a single drop of gas, doesn't figure in 1 single reciprocating saw blade, doesn't figure in, you know, like they had a trailer and stuff with them, doesn't figure in putting any money towards that or towards maintaining it or keeping it on the road, nothing for tax, title, license. Really, if the math says they made $30 an hour on that, I think really they made like $22 an hour plus overhead. All right, you know, I wouldn't want to go out there, you know, if I was in the market for odd jobs, someone was like, I'll pay you anything less than $22 an hour to deconstruct the stupid shed that's in my backyard. You know, I would not be into that. You know, that's a pretty fair quote unquote wage for the amount of work involved. And, you know, even though this is a quote unquote free amount of material, you know, quote unquote free $1,500 worth of stuff here. Okay. Even though it's so-called free, that listing was up for like 3 solid weeks or a month, or I don't remember. This was, I don't know, a year or two back now. It might have been more than that. It might have been like a month and a half. Okay. But even though it was sort of free, it was still kind of a pain to actually get someone to show up and take these stupid things. Okay, but that just goes to show the point. I see a lot of people in machinery clubs online, you know, forums and whatnot. You know, it's just, why would you spend your life working away to not make money, and in a lot of cases to lose money? And a lot of the time, the reason is because they don't really realize exactly what they're doing. Okay, but yeah, it's just, you can't not value the time it takes to do stuff. And a lot of the time, I mean, these used salvage building materials are absolutely not worth the time to go and mess with. And that's something that I wish a lot of people understood, you know, because like I said, life's too short to spend working to lose money, or at the very least to not come out ahead on anything. And yeah, so just a short message, definitely run the math on such things, and don't assume just because you can buy something used that it's cheaper than buying it new, because at least with building materials and salvage stuff, and even a lot of farm equipment, okay, maybe not new in the farm equipment case, but certainly less crappy used, if that makes sense. The cheap option is, let's just say, not guaranteed to be the cheap option. Thanks for listening. I hope that helped someone who's probably younger, so they don't have to learn all this stuff the hard way like I did. Yeah, I hope to see you guys on Telegram.